everybody. So we're back with our third and final match ramble we're going to be doing of Forbidden Door 2026. And we are going to be talking about our men's Owen Hart Cup final between Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, the main event of the entire show. So going into this match, I obviously did my review and thoughts and thoughts and reactions after the show and all. I've done all that now. I was very much big on this match. I think it's one of the best things AEW's done in terms of storytelling, etc. It wasn't my match of the night, but it was like, just how they did the storytelling. I may have overreacted because let's get straight into it. I think the match is good. I think the match is really solid. It's Will Ospreay versus Swerve. They've got history. They've got great chemistry. You know what you're going to get. And I do think the storytelling is the match's strongest point. I do. I just think there's a lot of points in this match where you watch it and you're like, you question a bit. You do question it. And there's no problem questioning wrestling matches. I don't believe that is a fault. It doesn't make a match worse or better. It's all opinionated. It's just, it's something that I think is definitely, needs to be said about this match. Let's get into it a bit more thoroughly. So the match opens up and both Ospreay and Swerve do their entrances based on DC supervillains, whatever. Will Ospreay is dressed as Bane. Bane is possibly my favourite supervillain ever, so I was very much happy about that. And obviously Swerve comes out as Lobo, which that's pretty cool too. So the match starts off and it is very instant. There's no charge in it. There is the definite tension and obviously the speed, the momentum. It's what you expect. The match doesn't really grip me straight away. It's very much it's insisting upon itself. It's very much built on, it's trying to get you invested just on the history and the promos and stuff, which the promos were good, but it was very much a short build, so it's not really much you can do for that. Obviously, Will and Swerve just have a great sort of chemistry, as said. The movements, each other. It's very much like they have got that telepathic link. Every Ospreay match is kind of like that. You have I call it the Ospreay sequence, where these matches just have these insane sequences between these two, where it's insane how they both know how they're going to move. But this one obviously does have that, and it's with someone like Swerve who doesn't get the credit for how nimble and athletic he is. It does get that. The match, after a certain point, I forget what the move was, but Swerve basically he succeeds in taking control of the match. He's very much, hitting Ospreay. There's a lot of kill shots here. A lot of kill shots, which I'm not complaining at all. A lot of hidden blades, as you expect too. But Swerve is very much spamming that move, and he's very much controlling Will. And it gets to a point where, the outside, even just before outside the ring, and Swerve's basically feeling it because obviously Swerve and Ospreay have had a bunch of matches, specifically the one at Forbidden Door 2 years ago at 24, where obviously Swerve was champ, Ospreay challenged, and Swerve won the match. And I stand by this, just saying it right now, the match feels like a sequel to that match. It does. To me, anyway. So, Swerve and Ospreay do their whole moment, and Swerve has this, when he's basically got control of Ospreay, he starts going, okay, your little brother, it's like we always have, like it always will be, your little brother, and starts kicking him in the head, being that cocky. Ospreay's obviously getting pissed, and Ospreay stands up and just goes fuck off right to his face, as you expect, with Ospreay being very aggressive. Obviously, with Ospreay, the obvious stuff to talk about is the Death Rider stuff, and it very much tries to convey that difference in Ospreay, and I feel like from this point it does try to do that, where Ospreay, so during the match at the start, Swerve's obviously targeting Ospreay's neck, a lot of kill shots to the neck, even the big pressures, stuff like that. They're very much designed to go for Ospreay's neck, and it does. There's one where he does on the outside of the ring where it does look quite high. And it looked like a bit like, oof, that could be a bit rough, but obviously it is what it is. And obviously, but after this bit where Ospreay kind of gets his little run, he's targeting Swerve's arm, which, makes sense. A lot of moves with Swerve, and it just kind of, very targeted. So they're outside the ring, and Ospreay gets Swerve on top of one of the barriers, and he goes to do, I don't know if he does a basic powerbomb or what. He basically goes to do a slam on Swerve. He does, obviously that hurts Swerve's arm, and he goes to, I forget what move he's about to do next. And then Nana comes up, Prince Nana, and he just throws coffee in Ospreay's face. Ospreay's pissed, looking down. He's like, what? And Nana's obviously ran away. And he just stares. He doesn't do nothing yet, but he does stare. Obviously Nana really getting involved. After this point, Swerve obviously gets back in. Swerve's got the advantage because obviously Ospreay was distracted. And Swerve ends up landing a catapult, where you pull him up. But on the bit with the pole and the ropes connect, the metal bit. and it fucking hurts Ospreay. Ospreay, that's where Ospreay splits. He splits open, he runs the blade, ridiculous blade job, and Swerve's later on, ridiculous. The amount of blood they shed is ridiculous here. It looks really good for visual. And after that point, you know, Swerve's kind of really getting more into it, you know, trying to get the finish, and Ospreay's getting a lot more of the comebacks. Now, there's a moment where, so like, I think this is after it, where Swerve's got Ospreay in the ring, and he goes to do a kill shot, and then Ospreay stands up and just hits him with the hidden blade. That was pretty cool. And then when Ospreay kind of reverses it back for himself, he goes to get Swerve outside the ring. And when he gets Swerve outside the ring, or on the other side, he's really brutalizing Swerve. There's a point where Swerve, like, it's kind of a hard switch over. It's like, they obviously are doing the kickouts, not a lot, but like, you know, at this point anyway, not a lot. It starts getting into itself, but once Ospreay really starts taking control of the match and really showcasing how brutal he's getting, frankly, but then also, you know, how you know, just the aggressor of the two. And I do feel like there's complaints to be made there. I'll mention that at the end of the breakdown a bit. But he goes outside. They go outside, and he gets Swerve. He goes to do a Styles Clash on the outside, and he doesn't do the Styles Clash. He ends up getting the stairs and throwing Swerve. He does like a giant swing. It's weird. He does it to the stairs, and Swerve. That's where Swerve splits himself open. And then when he's doing that, he goes up, drags the stairs over to the commentary table, rips the commentary. Clearly going to do a bomb through the commentary table. And when he does that, he gets Swerve, he's about to do it, and Nana rags Ospreay's leg. And then Ospreay obviously is pissed. He runs up to Nana. Nana's like obviously very fearful, and Ospreay goes to hit Nana, and then Nana dodges it, and Swerve hits him with a kill shot. Now, I will say I don't think that gets a lot of credit. This is what I mean, where I feel like the match is very much a sequel to the Forbidden Door match, because if you remember the Forbidden Door match, Nana was getting involved there too. And Ospreay got his hands on Nana, but didn't hit him. He let go, like, you know, like, what am I doing? And then that's what, obviously, Nana, this time he goes to hit him. It shows the change in Ospreay. And it's really well worked. This is the sort of stuff I like. And there's a moment later after this. So Swerve's bleeding. He gets the kill shot. He ends up getting Ospreay back in the ring. They're going bam for bam with the shots, you know, the kill shots. There's a point where Swerve goes for a kill for a hidden blade, and then Ospreay hits him back. That was pretty fucking sick. They're going for it. There's a lot of insecurities. There is a lot. And not a problem, but it's very much, there's no real weight in the match. I feel like that's what should have come from Swerve. I feel like Swerve lacks the weight here in his movements. He's definitely a lot of kill shots again, like I say, but he doesn't do... for me, there should have been a bit more brutal in the weight with Swerve compared to Ospreay. I don't think Ospreay has it either, but I think Swerve really should have showcased that a bit more to kind of differentiate the two. But, the main thing is they get back in the ring, and they do go for a spot where it's Swerve and Ospreay. And it's very similar to, obviously, the Forbidden Door match, where the finish should have happened last time in the Forbidden Door 24. So what I mean with the sequel is that outside, and the Swerve's going for the kill shot. Like, the corner's going at Ospreay, rips off the finger, they're screaming, and they're going for the, you know, basically the run at who lands first. And this time, Ospreay lands the hidden blade, which obviously it's the last time. He never, again, a great way to sequel. And he does go for the pin after this, and it doesn't have any kicks out. Now, that's what I mean by the kick outs. I feel like, personally, that's where the match should have ended. For me, I think that's one of them. But there's two endings, I think, with this match should have ended prior, and I think that was definitely one of them. I feel like there's something about AEW main events nowadays where it's very New Japan-esque. It is very New Japan, and I love New Japan wrestling. But it's like, well, style wrestling. It's very much... It does kind of extend an ending when a lot of times I think they do miss a mark where it could be tied in a little bow. I do feel like a lot of matches do miss that, and it's not a problem per se, but it's something that should be pointed out, and I think this definitely has that twice. So they do that, kicks out, and then it goes for a bit more. Ospreay's trying a lot. He obviously goes for a neck breaker. Obviously Swerve does one on him earlier, but he goes for a basic neck breaker, basic powerbomb, stuff like that. And it's really interesting after that. It's really interesting because I just think, for me, the character work here, I feel like with Ospreay, it's very much showcased how, and that's the focus, obviously, is how much they're pushing. He's going a lot more brutal, he's going a lot more, and it does extend. After this bit, really, it does kind of feel padded. And I stand by that. I think it does feel padded. Whereas a lot of stuff, it's really simpler, extending the kick out. You know, it's very much showing the desperation of both men. There's a point where Swerve looks like he's not begging for forgiveness, but he's definitely more fearful of Ospreay. It shows that development of, you know, the Death Rider's involvement. Now, there's a point where Swerve hits a brutal, I think he goes for the big pressure, and he lands it, and then Ospreay kicks out, and then the Death Riders come out, all of the Death Riders, and they're all standing there outside the ring going, come on, Ospreay, come on, come on, and then Ospreay, and then Swerve's looking at them. Swerve's a bit like, Swerve likes the irony in it, weirdly, and he goes and he points at them all, then hits a kill shot, and obviously the kill shot hits him there, and kicks Ospreay, and Ospreay instantly turns. He's obviously a bit limp at this point, the blood's all over the pair of them, and he turns and he looks at Moxley, and Moxley's going, come on, we'll do it, you know, stand up, don't give up. All of them are going mad. You can see Yuta in the background, because Claudio's next to Yuta, and Claudio's going, come on, we'll all that. Yuta's just like, and then 2 minutes later, he's like, yeah, come on, it's so out of nowhere, it's so funny. But, so then Moxley, obviously, you know, with that inspiration from Moxley, looking at Moxley, Ospreay goes, you know, all that stuff goes for, you know, I think he hits a hidden blade on Swerve, and then this is the second point I think the match should have ended. Ospreay goes for a buckshot hidden blade, obviously, you know, very much using the buckshot from Hangman, but with the hidden blade onto it, which I think is really cool. And then he doesn't go, and then it doesn't work, which I think, again, you could have done that, but, you know, again, I think that's very definitive. But then not, so then Ospreay obviously then goes for a Death Rider. That doesn't work. And then he goes for the Tiger Driver, 97, I think it's 97, which obviously was a move he used on Bryan. He vowed to never use it again. He used it on Max and All In, I believe. So obviously, you know, that was the whole thing. And that was, you know, that was like 24 actually, yes. So that was the whole thing with that story. But he doesn't use it really no more. It's very much seen as the brutal move opposed to the elbow strike to the back of the head. Never got that. But I just think with that, and bear in mind as well, they fucked that shot up. I'm not really one of those guys who likes to go, oh, production messed this up, all that shit like that. But like, it's the Tiger Driver and they kind of mess it up. They're shooting Moxley, or I forget what they're shooting in specific, it's Moxley and stuff. But then it just can't, you see the impact rather than the actual, you know, the layup and the bang. It kind of gets it for me. And that was the finish. I feel like the finish for me felt a lot more extended. After that, you know, the diagonal, and then they go for it. I do feel like it's padded. I feel like you could have cut all the middle bit out, which is kind of just faff, and then have the Death Riders come out at that point and then do, you know, the finishing, because that would have made it a bit more like, let's build on it. It feels like they go for the moment where they have the kick out with the hidden blade and the kill shot, then they go down, and then they go up for the finishes. It feels like they could have just went up for the finish and then built on that straight away to make it more up and land on such a high note. But it feels like they do really end on a padded ending, and it's a shame because the match is great, but it's just something I feel when I'm watching it, and it's a shame for that because I do think it's a great match. Obviously, Ospreay wins. He gets a massive celebration with the Death Riders. Alex Windsor come out. He goes off with Alex Windsor, and Danny Garcia goes, get a load of this guy. That was pretty funny. I love that guy. And then he obviously shows respect to Swerve, saying, I love you, you know, we're all cool and stuff like that. Swerve doesn't really show anything back. And that is the match. I do feel like, again, with the extended endings, I do feel like there's a lot that could be said, and I feel like it should be said, frankly. I don't want to sound like overly critical, because I think the match is great. But I do feel like, one, I feel like the extended finishes in this one, because there was, realistically, including the actual finish, there's three. At least for me, there's three definitive endings, and they go with the latter. And I think the book should, like, I just didn't like the finish. I think the finish was a bit too padded. I understand that's why people aren't really in love with the match. I like the match a lot. I think the match is great. I just feel like that's just the thing where you're going to go, I get it. And I do think that. I think it definitely is more apparent on a rewatch. I love the storytelling. I feels, like I say, very much a direct sequel to the Forbidden Door match, which is definitely a compliment in my book. I love that match. And it, obviously, we watched it before this, so that's definitely something that, you know, should be noted. I do recommend that for a viewing experience. But I will say the big problem I have with this match is the presentation of Swerve. I do feel like the presentation of Swerve is something that it's not due to Swerve's fault, it's not due to Will's, it's just due to how they've presented Swerve for a while now. And Swerve's whole thing is he's the most dangerous man in AEW. He's going to go to Brutal. This is a man who got fucking Brody King choked in a chain and curb stomped his ass. Like, that's insane. This is a man who breaks in to Hangman's house, sends him on a traumatic episode. Like, that's Swerve, and we're getting told he's the most dangerous man. And then in this match, there's no real brutality. I feel like you could have done a bit more with that. I feel like you definitely... Like, there's a moment where he kicks... It's like outside the ring, he kicks him, and then he just goes, by any means necessary. I'm like, well, I think that shouldn't be something that's by any means necessary. I feel like something else should be a bit more brutal. I feel like Ospreay looked a lot more brutal than Swerve here. And I've got no problem with that, because that's definitely the angle of going down with Ospreay. But I feel like, personally, it's kind of left Swerve's most dangerous man in AEW stuff kind of left in the lurch. He looks like just a man who there to help Ospreay elevate his brutality, which is fine, and he does a great job of that. And Swerve Strickland, he's one of the best. But I just feel like for his presentation, now, especially now, like, it's been a week removed nearly, and it's like, what are we doing with Swerve? Because we don't know. But I feel like ever since he's had that Brody King match, it feels like the brutality's kind of been watered down, and that's what I want from Swerve. I don't feel like we got that here, and that's honestly a bit of a shame. I feel like we could... Frankly, if it was up to me, I would have had Swerve do... Like, it probably is, like, you know, you can't use weapons. I was going to say, you could have had the chain in there. There's a point where Swerve kicks him in the balls at the end as well, and I was like, well, I didn't like that. I didn't like that, because, like, they tried to tease shenanigans, but then it's not even shenanigans. And that's when the Death Riders come out after that. That's in the padded bit. And it's like... Well, frankly, I don't get why kicking in the balls. That's a show of desperation rather than a show of brutality and anger and, you know, all this sort of stuff. That's what I associate with Swerve being the most dangerous man. I don't feel like that's portrayed well in Swerve at the minute. I don't think it's portrayed well in this match. I think Swerve's excellent. Obviously, it feels like Swerve's just being told to go out and, you know, deliver a star-making performance again, which, you know, well, that's what Swerve does. And Ospreay's, you know, the focus is on Ospreay with the brutality, when it feels like Ospreay's the only brutal one. It doesn't look like Ospreay's one-up Swerve in the brutality, which I think that should have been, you know, the kind of the motive, and it doesn't really do that. But it's still great. I don't want to sound overly critical. I just feel like that's my biggest issue with the match, is from the build, it should have really been a brutal Ospreay. I feel like you could have done Swerve doing some nasty holds. You could have done Swerve being a lot more brutal to that neck. Like, there's a point where Ospreay does a hidden blade. Swerve's down, he goes on the floor. Then Ospreay does a shot to the neck of Swerve. And then, like, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it's like, well, why is Swerve not doing that? Personally, why is Swerve not targeting, doing cheap shots like that, being dirty, frankly, being a dirty bastard? Like, I feel like that's my problem with Swerve in this match. And it's, again, not a problem with Swerve himself. I just think they didn't let him be horrible. I feel like now, when you want to show Swerve's brutality, it's got to be in a death match, when, in reality, let him push the boundaries in a regular bell-to-bell. That's my biggest issue with Swerve here. I think Ospreay looks great. I knew Ospreay was going to win, but I thought, like, even when Ospreay come out with the death, like, it looks like a neutron, at least to me. It's got very much a Death Riders angle to it, with the, like, the right and flash, and it does look very Death Riders, and the gear's a lot more darker. But it's like, I like the brutality shown from Ospreay, obviously the Tiger Driver. I do feel like they should have put a lot more emphasis on that. I feel like the hidden blades being abundance obviously makes sense. No Death Ground was shocking. I thought the Death Ground would have made the finish. The Death Rider made sense. Like, I feel like you could have done a lot of finishes. You could have obviously done, like, I feel like you could have ran all of them back. Like, you could have done Ospreay even, like, doing hidden blades to Swerve. Swerve's in the corner, out of it, and he goes, like, he could have, even a little homage to Marina Shafir, going, I need you to do better. Obviously, there's that moment where he tries to reverse the Styles Clash into a giant swing. Like, that's very weird. You could have made that more of a giant swing moment for Claudio. You could have had him hit the fucking Brutalizer, because you know Ospreay hitting that Brutalizer would have been insane. You obviously have him hitting the Death Rider. Like, with Yuta and Garcia, they're just great, but, you know, there's not really moves you could say for them. Maybe the Psycho knee, and obviously the buckshot. I feel like Ospreay does that, but they should have leaned more into the moves to really emphasize, like, this is a new Ospreay, rather than, okay, there's only, like, you're going to use the Death Rider and then use the Tiger Driver, after a while. Like, you could have done more. For me, you could have done a lot more, but that might just be a nitpick. But I sound really negative about this match, and I don't want to. I think it's a great match. I think it wasn't my match of the night. I stand by it's not. I thought the Moxley versus Bandito for me was the match of the night, which sounds very stupid, because I don't think a lot of people love that match from that card. I just think it knows what it wants to be, and it serves it well. I think this match tries to act like it's something that it isn't, and that's the problem. If it acted like what it is, in terms of a great match between the two, and frankly, a bit of a sequel to the Forbidden Door match in 24, I I'd have a lot less of a problem with it, but it acts like it's this brutal not death match, but this brutal showing at the two of them when it's not. It just, like, tries to act like all the moves are so wild, when the Tiger Drive's a wild move, yeah, but we see that all the time. Swerve doesn't really have any dangerous moves. I just feel like it's something that needs to be said. I think it's a great match. I really want to emphasize, I think it's an absolutely great match. I just feel like the odd bit is just missing. I feel like this could have been incredible. I just feel like it just kind of doesn't let itself go far enough, which is fine. It probably is a reason for that, but I feel like that's something that's been noted. Obviously, the moments of Will winning the Owen, really happy about that. Obviously, he's really happy to get, this is the goal, and, you know, the hard work starts now, as Shimani says. But either way, I like the match. I think it was a great match. I think it was a great way to end Forbidden Door. I just feel like, from my perspective, I wanted a bit more. And not in terms of bell to bell, but in terms of what they wanted to portray. I feel like they could have went, ironically enough, all in. Like, you've got a big fuck-off sign that says, Will Ospreay's all in. Let him go all in the match, especially with Swerve. I feel like that's something that you got to really, really do. Just add a bit more attention to, because you've kind of dropped the ball with that. Personally, I should make a separate video on Swerve. But I think the match is great. I think it was a great main event. And even though I've got criticisms, doesn't mean I don't love it. I think it was great. And obviously, criticism is how you improve. And I know Tony watches it because he uploads fucking Bryan Danielson versus the Gun Club for me and me alone. But yeah, I thought it was a great match. Great way to end Forbidden Door. There is critiques, but as is everything. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's my thoughts on Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland's main event match at Forbidden Door in the Owen Hart Cup men's final. Let me know what you think of the match. Let me know what you think of the critiques I've said. I don't know if they're valid, and, you know, do you agree, do you disagree? And what do you think, mainly, we all know what's Ospreay's going on, but what do you think of Swerve at the minute? Because I feel like that's the more interesting conversation for me. What do you think of Swerve, and what do you think happens to him post this match? Because I think that's really interesting.